I work for the client. And yes, I'm there to help them and to guide them, but ultimately I'm there for them. I have to cook the way they like, season the way they like. To me, that's a challenge. I'm like, oh, now I get to be creative and think like, how am I going to do this? And how am I going to make food taste good? If you can find that chef that is accommodating, meets or exceeds your expectations, and is flexible, that's when you find the right fit.
Hey, y'all, it's Danny C. Welcome to the Happy Life Agenda podcast, dedicated to empowering the voices of women and creating connection to open doors to a happier life. So today, I am so excited to be joined by Jennifer Bajsel, the saucy chef, who you may know from the Eat This Network TV, streaming on Roku, Amazon Fire, YouTube. And while Jennifer cooks incredible Italian food, she is also a food advocate and a woman with a strong heart for helping to elevate women. So I am so thrilled to have Jennifer here to talk about her work and maybe even share some cooking secrets for those of us like me that love great Italian food but don't have the time or aren't great at cooking. So Jennifer, welcome to the show. I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited too.
You're so welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What led you to become an Italian chef and food advocate?
So the Italian chef is, let's start as becoming a chef. Throughout my life, my parents passed away when I was young. So I kind of had to learn how to cook to survive. So that's kind of how I got into cooking. But what really made a catalyst for me loving to cook for others was when I got married and, having dinner parties and trying to figure out whose holiday we were going to spend time with. And so Thanksgiving became my absolute favorite holiday to cook for, which is coming up. And, when I was married, we had obviously family come to our house. But once I got divorced, I didn't want to miss that holiday. So I started doing an open house. And my first Thanksgiving open house, I had 8 people. The next year I had 12. The next year I had 24. And my most number of guests at one of my Thanksgiving happy hours was 40. Wow. So that kind of started me thinking, oh, maybe I'm a good cook.
Just maybe.
Well, just, a thought. So I had done quite a few things in my life as careers. I tease and say I'm the Jane of all trades because I've done property management, retail. I've taught ballroom. I owned a talent agency. I've done a lot of different things. But really, when I lost my talent agency due to the recession, and it was my first business, we all make mistakes and things happen. I was trying to decide, what would be my be all end all. Sure, there were lots of careers that I could do that I was good at that would be fine to do until I retired. But I really wanted to do something for myself that I loved to do. So I realized after I lost the agency that I was picking up cookbooks and just reading them like a magazine, just flipping through recipes and spending hours. And I decided to go to culinary school. And when I made that decision, I didn't tell a soul. So no friends, no family, nobody. I just thought, let me investigate it. Let me see if this is something I want to do. And it was interesting, even in my admissions interview for college, they said, what do you want to do with your career? And I said, well, I really hadn't thought about that. I just like to cook and I want to know if I'm any good at it. I really didn't think like I would make a career out of it. And so I got accepted, and that's what I finally told everybody. And I had an epiphany. That was the first time in my entire life, and I was 40, that I did something for me that I wanted to do that nobody said, Jennifer, you should do this. You'd be good at it.
Wow.
Right? It is just something I really wanted to do. And I've had nothing but doors open for me, huge opportunities. I feel very successful and I'm happy. I mean, I really do enjoy what I do every day. I never get up and go, oh, I don't want to go to work today.
Oh my gosh. Can we just pause and celebrate that for a second? Because, the Happy Life Agenda and the work that I do with women for brand identity, that's exactly what we want them to step into. Stop letting the world tell you who you should be. And for once, do it for you. And look what happens. It's flow and it's fun. And I mean, your career is incredible, which we're going to unpack, but congratulations. Thank you for taking that step.
Yeah. So, from there, from culinary school, I got offered a job in restaurants. And the funny thing is that I did say to my admissions instructor that I did not want to work in restaurants, but that's where I ended up. And I had some great experiences, some real learning curves, things to kind of think over. What I realized fairly quickly, like within the first 2 years, is that I didn't enjoy being on the line, cooking the same thing over and over and over again. I also didn't like being told what to do by 18-year-olds because I was in my 40s. Like, treat me like I've never cooked before. I was cooking 20 years before I ever went to college. So, like, I just found that wasn't the right fit. So I stopped. I left. Like I quit restaurants
Oh, okay.
and took a chance and started my business called Getting Saucy.
Cute.
And it's my company still exists. It's morphed over time. It started as a boutique, what I would call boutique catering. So
Okay.
I did private dinners, birthday parties, graduations, anniversaries, smaller events. I did
Mhm.
realize really quickly that big corporate, 200, 300, 400, 500 people, also not my jam.
Okay.
I
Lots of
like
learning.
that. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of learning in those first few years with my business. And so um, as I picked up private dinners, I got into becoming like a full-time private chef. And that's
Oh,
what I call my day job now. So I
awesome.
have a full-time family. Or it's a family that I work for full time. I work Monday through Friday. I cook their dinner and meal prep the principal's lunch for the next day.
Wow.
And now I have another two families that I meal prep for, in my off time.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I'm more in the private chef world, as far as that. But then I had the opportunity. I was on Beat Bobby Flay in
Oh my gosh.
2015, and that just kind of came. I just auditioned all the time. If you look at my history before I became a chef, I have a degree in television, radio, broadcasting. I did some local commercials in upstate New York. I modeled as a kid. So I've kind of always, and I danced, tap, jazz, and ballet competitively. So I've always kind of been like on stage and a
Yeah.
performer.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of auditioning. So I finally got on Beat Bobby Flay, and that was a wonderful experience, great production, top notch. Even though I didn't win, it was just a beautiful experience. Like I really enjoyed my time there. Then in 2019, I was on Chopped.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's amazing.
both of these opportunities, the productions were totally different, but really it's interesting if you talk to chefs, like, why would you do TV? And I
Mhm.
think that there's a little bit of a misconception that, all these new upcoming chefs all want to be famous. I don't
Mhm.
think that's the case. I do like being on camera. I do like the media side of it.
Mhm.
If I never do another thing in television, I still love what I do. But if I could meld those two sides of my careers together and have that media career alongside cooking, that would be like the be all end all for me. So I'm still working on that, and new opportunities open every day, and
Yeah.
you just have to seize the moment. But I did the shows because I wanted producers to get to know who I was. Because as a restaurant chef, you're written up all the time, right? You're
Mhm.
written up in
Mhm.
magazines, you're written up in newspaper articles, you're talked about in the media. People know you if you own a restaurant.
Right.
They don't know you if you're a private chef. And
True.
that doesn't make you less of a chef. It's just a different genre.
Right. The
So
exposure's smaller.
yeah. So I
Yeah.
took it upon myself to try to get my own exposure.
Right. Yeah. Of course.
And then,
Smart.
uh, yeah, and then I got reached out by Eat This TV network, and they were looking for chefs, and they said, "Well, what is your specialty?" And I said, "Well, I'm a private chef." I said, "My customers, I can cook any cuisine. I trained in world cuisine in culinary school, so I learned French techniques. I took Middle Eastern cooking. I took Italian. I took Latin. I took Asian. I mean, I took nutrition
Wow.
courses. So like I got the gamut in culinary school. And as a private chef, that works because my clients don't want to eat pasta every night. So the producers were like, well, we really kind of need you to tell us what you do, what your thing is. And I said, well, I'm a food advocate. We can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I really am passionate about knowing the American food system and where your food comes from and teaching people how to eat better,
Mhm.
not necessarily sticking to those bad diets, but
Yes.
learning how to make better choices for yourself. So they said, well, that's not really a cuisine either. And I said, okay, well, they go, what's your favorite thing to cook? And I said, well, pasta. You know, I make my mom's spaghetti sauce like weekly, like it's always in my refrigerator. And they said, well, what were you going to do on Beef Bobby Flay? Well, the producers had asked me for 3 recipes. And when I thought back upon it, I submitted my signature bolognese with scratch made parpadelli.
Ooh.
I submitted ossobuco sloppy joes, but it's still ossobuco, is Italian, and tiramisu. And the producers go, honey, if you don't know you're Italian, you're an Italian chef. Like, I hate to tell you, but that's kind of your lane. Like, you are Italian, which I'm, by the way, clearly not Italian. I am a redhead with green eyes, very pale. So, not Italian. By doing the show, I just really decided if I'm going to do this, I need to do it right. And I need to do
Mhm.
it with respect to the country, to the people, to the
Mhm.
culture, to the food. And so I've done a ton of research before every show. I research and practice and try to do justice to the recipes that I do. So I have 3 seasons of Getting Saucy TV on Eat This TV network, 38 episodes, over 75 recipes so far.
Wow. Wow. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Okay, you've been talking, there's so many questions that I have because this is the coolest career ever. I mean, and just, in line with what I do is hearing all of the things that you did in your past that don't feel like they align with being a chef and then you kind of were able to piece that together into who you are today and that's incredible. I love it. So, I want to go back to the private chef thing because, a lot of moms listen to this podcast. I'm a mom working. Cooking's not my favorite thing, but I studied nutrition in school. And so, you being a food advocate, it's so important where your food comes from, what's in it, because you can eat all the kale you want all day long. But if it's, that bag of kale that has got all of the stuff on it to be able to make it from the farm to the grocery store and stay on the shelf until you buy it and stay in your refrigerator, it's not that great for you. So, can you talk a little bit about like how you work with families and, how they can assess if they're ready for a private chef? Because I'm just fascinated by, having someone of your caliber to be able to make meals for my family. Because that was something I looked into, but I didn't look into it at this level.
Yeah. So, I think that certainly defining what your needs are
Mhm.
as a family or an individual are important. And what your dietary expectations are. Like one of my private clients, I was hired basically because the principal was not eating well and his health was failing. And so
Oh.
they brought me in to cook more healthy for him. Now, getting him to eat those things, that's another story.
Yes.
but, you know, but for an example, so he likes apple fritters
Ah.
and you can't eat those every day. I mean, you
Mm-mm.
could, but it
Mm-mm.
really isn't good for you. And so I was able to come up with a recipe where I substituted out the sugar for a stevia product.
Ah.
And and then I fried them in avocado oil. So while I
Wow.
couldn't necessarily get the sugar out of the flour itself, it did make them quite a bit healthier than the fritters he was getting at the bakery. Not that those fritters were amazing from the bakery, by the way, but you can't eat them every day. So I think assessing and then finding the right fit. So there's different levels of private chefs. So
Mhm.
there are some chefs that meal prep off site, right? And they
Mhm.
create a menu and you go in and you pick the food that you want, and then it's a weekly delivery.
Ah.
Um, that fits a lot for a lot of people. When you get into the level where, like, I'm in your home and I'm cooking, I do charge a premium hourly rate
You should.
for that.
That would be an amazing experience.
So, one would be the other thing to consider is, what's the cost
Yeah. Yeah.
compared to the benefit. But there are different levels you can find for chefs, and I think as a private chef, the thing that you have to do is you have to put your ego aside, right? Because
Mm.
I work for the client, and yes, I'm there to help them and to guide them, but ultimately, I'm there for them. So
Right.
I have to cook the way they like, and season the
Mhm.
way they like. I have one client that the wife can't eat salt and the husband can't eat garlic. So I've had to be really creative with how I season food for them. But I think that's what's key is instead of being that chef that says, "Oh my gosh, you have to salt your food." It's like, okay, if you can't have salt, if it doesn't make your body feel good, then let's figure it out. That to me, that's a challenge. And that's where I enjoy it. Like, I'm like, oh, now I get to be creative and think like, how am I going to do this? And how am I going to make food taste good? Um, so I think that's where you really find, if you can find that chef that is accommodating, meets or exceeds your expectations and is flexible. I think that's when you find the right fit.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And I just want to like kudos to you, the getting to like, dabble in that creativity and that challenge and show up and be just like who you are and have fun with it. I mean, so many people that's got to be so rewarding for your job. Many of us don't get that. I would call it a luxury. Like you said, not everybody's into the challenge. But I do. That's amazing. Well, so that was a really great insight about private chef and the pickup meals. And any working mom that's listening, these are some options I wasn't even aware of. So thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing that. So now I want to back up to something you said, talked about the apple fritters and you mentioned, the substitutions for the sugar. And then you touched on something that I actually saw on your Instagram, and that's flour. So, you were talking about your food advocacy work and, how so many people suffer from gluten sensitivity and gluten allergies. And a lot of times we blame our bodies, but when really it's what Americans are doing to food, again, as I said, to get it from the grocery store to your home. So can you talk a little bit about how American flours differ from other parts of the world and what's causing all those gluten issues and how you're able to take something like an apple fritter and kind of clean it up so that we can indulge in it without as much guilt?
Sure. So, I do a lot of, well, I like to read, and there's a lot of books that I have follow. And I think unpacking the American food system is difficult. One day wine is good for you, the next day it's not. Well, I'm on the side of the it's good for you as long as you don't overindulge.
Me too. Me too.
Antioxidants, keep it going. Everyone's like, "Why do you look so young?" I'm like, "It's the wine."
It's that resveratrol.
But when you look at our American food system, really it started to change after World War II. Women worked a little bit during World War II, right? Because we had
Mhm.
to help support our soldiers. And when they came back, you had women who stayed in the workforce, right? So they weren't home all day to cook for their families. And so that's kind of when frozen dinners and TV dinners and the convenience food started, right?
Yeah.
Well, then some companies picked up on some of the habits, or should I say addictions, that Americans have.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
probably a really great book if you want a jaw dropping, like, oh my God, I can't believe this book. It's called Salt, Sugar, Fat, How the Food Companies Fooled Us. I read it in a day. I was like, oh my gosh, like
Wow.
just incredible. The whole low fat diet craze in the
Mm.
80s, you know who
So
paid for
dangerous.
those studies?
No? Who paid for
The,
him?
sh- the sugar industry.
Oh my
The
gosh.
sugar industry paid for those scientific studies, made everybody think they had to cut fat out of their diet. But you know what you have to do to make a product taste good if you take the fat out?
Lots of sugar and salt.
Yeah. So fat doesn't make you fat, by the way, if you didn't know
Yep.
that. And eating an egg yolk that has cholesterol in it does not cause cholesterol in your
Right.
arteries. Your omega 6 and omega 3 ratio in food actually is more of an indicator of plaque buildup and cholesterol in your arteries. But I digress. We're talking about flour. So
Those are good
American
tips
flour.
though.
So America, I could give me a soapbox. I get all day on these things. So American flour, one, we use a harder wheat, let's say, than Italy. Italy uses softer wheat because there are different wheats. Uh, I want to preface this too by saying that 90% of wheat seeds in this country are owned by Monsanto, which is now Pear.
Uh-huh.
Uh, they're the same company that owns Roundup.
Uh,
It's not that they're just spraying pesticides on our plants anymore. The seeds that they control are genetically modified. It could have been M&M. It's a dry seed. You plant it in the ground. Once
mhm.
water hits it, though, that coating melts off of it into the ground, and then it grows inside the plant. You can't wash it off your plant. 90% of the wheat in this country is controlled by Monsanto. So that's the first thing.
Oh my
So if you're
gosh.
going to eat any wheat products, make sure it's organic. But then our flour goes through processing, and we basically, the way that we mill our flour, we strip it of all its nutrition. So when you see enriched flour, it's enriched not because it's healthy for us, it's enriched because they had to put back in what they took out when they processed it.
Wow.
So we bleach our flour. We use something called chlorine dioxide as a bleaching agent that can cause digestive issues, stomach upset. Benzoyl peroxide is used as a preservative, also something that can cause digestive issues. Potassium bromate is used. That is banned in almost every country other than America,
Oh my gosh.
banned in all of Europe. And that's a past possible carcinogen. But a lot of things that are banned in Europe are not banned here in America. So you have all these things being so you take all the nutrients out and then you add these other things back in to make it shelf stable, to make it not fake, to make it pretty and white and consistent looking in color. And then they add back in synthetic vitamin, which our body may not process the way it would if it was a natural vitamin, right?
Right.
So this is why I think American flour, people have such an issue with it. I mean, I bloat bread, pasta, anything with
Mhm.
American flour, even if it is organic, because it's a harder wheat and they still go through this processing. I still tend to bloat, not feel good after I eat it. The flour, let's say in Italy, that's a softer wheat. They don't use pesticides. When they mill it, it's usually used really quickly. If you go into these small Italian towns, you know your local flour person, right?
Right.
So you're using your flour probably within 3 to 5 days of it being milled. And it's milled in a different way where it keeps most of the natural parts of the wheat. So the germ, the endosperm, all those things are still part of it. You're still eating kind of like a whole food product
Oh,
versus America, which is completely processed. And don't get me started on the whole how long flour sits on a shelf in America either, between processing, trekking, and sitting there. Giada De Laurentiis, I went to like a Q&A with her, and she brought up the fact that by the time you get flour off a shelf in a grocery store, it's most likely rancid at that point.
oh my
And
gosh.
you can't taste that, but your stomach
Oh,
will know.
oh wow. That's such an
Yeah.
interesting fact.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I would be careful too, because a lot of people are learning this. Like they're becoming, I will say consumers are becoming more aware of how America has processed food and what these corporations have been pushing on us and, getting us addicted to.
Mhm.
But now I'm starting to see a lot of Italian flours in American grocery stores. I would just look and see if it's sourced from Italy. I would look at the packaging dates because I think you're going to start to see like King Arthur or some of these other flour companies, Pillsbury, coming out with a 00 Italian flour.
Mhm.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's coming from Italy.
Wow, that's good advice. In fact, one of my questions for you is like, if we shop at Central Market and Whole Foods, all of these grocery stores that we perceive as like we can get the better stuff, is it really this better Italian flour? Because their turnover is not like a small market where, they only have a few customers and they can keep the churn going. Can you enlighten us on where we can find this better flour and it's really real?
Well, I would go to your Italian specialty markets first.
Oh, okay. Okay.
In the Dallas area, there's Jimmy's Italian market. They've been around for forever, but they import directly from local importers in Italy. Italy is a huge
I
marketplace, but
love.
they do 100% import. All their
Ah,
products are imported from Italy. Um, and then there's some newer pop up smaller markets now that are coming around that specialize in Italian products. I'm not saying that HEB or Central Market doesn't carry Italian. You got to read the
mhm.
labels.
Okay.
It's kind of like olive oil,
Mm.
right? So olive oil is another thing you've got to watch, right?
Give us your tips.
Olive oil is adulterated, meaning it can be mixed in with just regular vegetable oil. It's not
Oh
100%
no.
pure. What is required on the label is the origin and I think the date. So you know that like you should use it within a certain amount of time. I look for single sourced olive oil. Okay. And
Okay.
I go for a ton of olive oil. I would look for, if it says Italy, where in Italy, did it come from one place in Italy? Right? Did it come from Spain? Is it 100% Spanish? It came from this particular, so like Central Market, they have a Sicilian olive oil.
Hmm.
It's the price point's decent. It's not, a $30, $50, $70 bottle of olive oil, but
Okay.
it does source all of its olive oil from Sicily.
Oh, okay.
I'll buy that before I'll buy 100% organic olive oil that's a blend, right? So think of it this way. If it's a blend, that means that like Tunisia or Portugal, right? They're pulling and pressing their olive oil, then they're sending that to one place, mixing it together with the Italian olive oil or the California olive oil,
Hmm.
right? And then it gets shipped. So again, you're looking at the flavonoids and the healthy products that are in olive oil that make it so good for you deteriorate over time. So the longer it takes in transport, like to go from Tunisia to Portugal to Italy to America, can definitely make that the quality not have as much nutrients in it.
Hmm.
But also with olive oil, again, if you don't use it in enough time, it can go rancid.
Hmm.
You got to keep it airtight, got to keep it in a cool place and in a dark bottle. Don't let sunlight get
Ah,
to it.
that's interesting.
So, look for single source. Know that you're getting olives from one place because you know it's going to get here quicker. There's no chance that somebody's going to mix it with something else on its way
Hmm.
uh, to us. So those are my key points about olive oil.
If there's a lot of online, the internet opens up a lot of opportunity. Can we order from an Italian source, and once it makes it to us, like that shorter journey but still long, is that a good way to get your olive oil since it probably ships pretty
Yes.
well?
I have, if you don't mind me making a shameless plug, I have, there's two companies in Italy that I know. I know the owners and I know the women.
Mhm.
So Piro, Piro,
Okay.
go to their website, order, it gets to you in 3 to 5 days.
Wow. And it's a woman-owned business. I like that. So yes, no
Women-owned
shameless
business.
plug.
And Culinary olive oil is not women owned. However, some of the women that work for the I want to say winery, but it's the olive grove. Similar. They same thing. It can order it online and it gets to you within a week. So it goes directly from Italy here to your home. It's not going to multiple different stops on the way. It gets here pretty quickly. So yes,
Wow.
there if you find an olive oil brand that you really like, and Perudetti is interesting because they have different types of olive oils. So I have I'm not sure if I even have it on my website. I'm not a tech girl, so I'm a little slow at getting stuff I do on my website or on my, TikTok or whatever. But
Right.
I did a promotional educational video for Prunetti and they sent me 4 different olive oils and I go through the difference in the olive that they use and how
Oh.
olives are similar to grapes. So the flavors in the olives pick up what's in the terroir, what's in the area that it's grown in. And so you get different flavors, right? So you might find one olive oil that's great for like salad dressings and drizzles and it's a lighter flavor. Then you can get some that are real intense and peppery that work really well, like on steak or fish. Anyway, that's a whole like I could do a class on flour. I could do a class on olive oil. We have so many things and we only have so much time, but
Yeah.
yeah, there it's fascinating. And when you're in Italy, you can do olive oil tastings, and it's similar to wine tastings.
Oh my
And they
gosh.
teach you how to pick out those different tasting notes in the olive oil, and it's a fun experience.
Oh my gosh. Sign me up. I want to go on a tour of Italy now, and I'll just take you with me so you can tell me. It's just like, oh,
I'm going over east. I'm going to Sicily in Easter.
oh my gosh. Oh, how
Yeah.
fun. Oh my gosh. I've learned so much. And like you said, I think we're going to have you back on and maybe have some more in-depth conversations specifically about the nutrition. And then, just some of these like specialty type foods that, I mean, just the 4 different types of olive oil that you just mentioned, like how much more exciting would my cooking be or my salad be if I had a different olive oil and it's still good for me. I'm not adding, a whole lot of extra salt or anything. So Those are amazing tips. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
So I want to shift gears a little bit. So when we met, I think we were at a networking event, and we started talking about, the long-standing pressure of women to be the good girl. It was a little sidebar conversation after everybody was dismissed, and I'm a huge fan of Elise Loehnen, who she wrote the book on our best behavior, and that really goes into the deep into human evolution to find all the spaces where women have been asked to be nice girls and good girls, and were valued lesser than our male counterparts. And, all those stories were written down and passed down primarily by men. So you and I were talking about that, and you said, you had some insights to that, and, them to learn that you're a chef. Well, being the nice girl and the good girl doesn't work generally in the kitchen, because that's a really tough environment. And typically in restaurants and media, it's dominated by men. So let's talk about how you've rewritten history to be able to, get where you are in your career and elevate yourself in the kitchen working with men.
So I will say that in the culinary industry, there was a study done in 2019, and I think it still carries today. It's still in similar percentages. There's a 24.6% difference between a man's salary and a female salary in the culinary industry in the same
Wow.
position.
Wow. That's
And
huge.
here we are almost in 2026. And yes, it's still that much of a difference. And I think a lot of that comes from the perception. And this is interesting because one of the things I love to say to people, um, you know, Augustus Escoffier, he was the guy that kind of came up to make chefs a profession, right? It
Mhm.
actually made it an industry and made it a profession.
Wow.
Um, French guy, and then there were a lot of like different organizations supporting, and you see all these men in the kitchen. I've had challenges in this industry where I've been told I couldn't cook because I was a woman. I could pass out food. Um, I've been, told that, oh, I can't possibly be as good as this person because I'm a woman. And I look and I say, well, who do you think taught you how to cook? Your mama, right?
Exactly.
Hate to say it, but you learned how to cook from your grandmother and your mother. So where this whole like men are better chefs than women whole culture came from, I'm not quite sure, unless it's just ego driven, which is probably the case. But women still in my industry are fighting that battle, are fighting to prove that they're just as good. When I tell people I'm a chef, they're like, "Oh, what do you bake?"
Oh, no.
Why you automatically assume I'm a pastry chef because I'm a
Mm,
woman, right?
right.
No. Um, you can have men and women in pastry, men and women in savory. So I do, that is my kind of like my knee jerk reaction is to put people in their place and say, well, who taught you how to cook? Most likely a woman,
Yeah.
and they have, oh, oh yeah.
It's so true. When I was researching for this podcast, I found that women still dominate even though, we're so advanced in the feminist movement and all of that, they still dominate the kitchen in the majority of households in the United States. And yet men dominate the kitchen in the restaurants and cooking. And I, came across a stat recently that, 80% of expert resources in the media are men. And when a reporter kind of dove into that and did some more research, it's because women actually say no to the opportunity out of fear. They're afraid that they won't show up, they won't say the right thing, they don't know their stuff. And so do you think that, women aren't giving themselves the fair shake, or is this really kind of like some of the other things we see in corporate America where it's just we need more men advocating for the women and saying, the value is the same. It doesn't matter if you're male or female. You're a great cook, you're a great executive.
I don't think that women consciously don't advocate for themselves. I know that it's intimidating. So I volunteered at a charity event, which is how I got into the restaurant industry. I got hired by Chef John Tizar, and I was intimidated. He was a well known Dallas chef. I was excited. I was intimidated. I didn't know what to expect. Right. So I will say that I was kind of quiet and I'm not a quiet person. But you go into a new situation and
Mhm,
you're kind of like, okay, let me see how this goes. Let me, teach me how the restaurant stuff works. Now, over time, I gained confidence
mhm.
and started to stand up for myself. And I will say that I left that restaurant because I got passed over a couple times to move up on the kitchen line. And I had like legitimate conversation with the chef. And I said, I don't understand why. and this is my expectation. This is what I want. And if you can't give that to me, I'm going to give you my notice and I'm going to leave. Interesting thing. You couldn't look me in the eye while we had that conversation.
Ah,
Uh, but I gave 2 weeks notice, which also freaked him out. Because by the way, chefs don't really give notice in restaurants. They just kind of walk out. But again, I'm an older woman. So, and I was just being polite and gave him 2 weeks. But I think that it's more of just not knowing when you first enter the industry, right? I think also there's perceptions between back of the house and front of the house. So you see women as more of the host,
mhm,
right? So a lot of women take those front of the house positions
mhm,
versus the back of the house. So basically, your front of the restaurant being the hostess, the servers, the bartenders versus being the chefs in the back. I will say too that the environment that I think the culture is slowly changing. When I first started in restaurant was not unheard of that the executive chef would throw dishes at the chefs in the kitchen and I'm not saying my particular chef, I'm just saying in general, the super
mhm,
culture. It was degrading. Chefs were verbally abusive to their
mhm,
staff, sometimes physically violent,
mm.
um, punches, breaking plates, cursing, just not. I mean, I was like, if anybody ever throws a plate at me, they better run because I'm not a but back me into a corner kind of girl. I come out swinging. But like, who would want to put themselves in that environment, right? We're here because we love what we do and we want to be praised for it and we want to know that we're doing well. That doesn't mean we don't want to be corrected when we make a mistake. But if there's a way to do that that's not I mean, literally abusive. So I'm lucky. I am one, if not the only chef that John Tezar, and he will tell you this, that never yelled at. And he didn't. He never yelled,
Wow.
which freaked me out a little.
Like, would you tell me once? Check a box.
Yeah, he's like, "Am I really that good of a chef, or like, are you afraid?" Like, so I think for women going into the industry, it's not that they necessarily don't want to fight for. They may not know what to fight for. If
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Yes.
I do think what you said, the latter thing you said, was interesting. I do think we could see more men advocating for women. Drop that
Mhm.
ego. It's not a competition. We
Exactly.
can both do well. So, it's interesting. I have this conversation a lot. If I meet chefs out, in restaurants and bars, and, they're like, oh, my sauce is better than yours. And I go, well, how do you make your sauce? Because unless we're using the exact ingredients, recipe, right? You can't really compare. It's apples and oranges.
Right.
My sauce could be just as good as your sauce, and half the people might like my sauce better, and some might like yours. This taste is subjective.
Yep.
This whole like I'm better than you, and that's got to go by the wayside. We're so much stronger together than we are apart.
Yes.
Uh, and one of the things I do love to do is collab with other chefs or other producers. And there's so much we can do together as far as educating and creating entertainment and good experiences for our customers and our clients that I do think that tide is shifting. We're not quite there yet. And I think the salaries will catch up with the culture.
It absolutely does because that's what one of the things we talk about on the Happy Life agenda is that we're in this point in society where something's got to shift. That's why kind of having the turmoil that we're having. But I mean, women as a whole, and that's why I started this, is that we have to join together, as you said, and let's not compete with each other, but let's come together and create this movement because it's time we need some men helping to stand up and advocate. I interviewed somebody on my podcast a few weeks ago, and she works for Fair Play, or she's certified by the Fair Play Institute, and that's where they actually help coach women for equity in the home and having these conversations with husbands because it's not always conscious, as you said, on that they're behaving this way. It's the way that men were raised and the subconscious programming from the stories, just like I started this conversation. The subconscious programming from women is like, if I show up as a chef in a kitchen, I better keep quiet and be the good girl and learn what I can instead of being able to find out and learn how to stand up for yourself so you can get that spot. And so a lot of things have to culminate in order for us to take it where it needs to go.
We do. And I think confidence is the other thing too, right? So
Yes.
and I think as women, we can even say this in our personal lives. The older you get, the more comfortable and confident you get in your own skin.
Yes.
Knowing how to react and knowing what to stand up for, I think just
Hmm.
naturally evolves for women over time.
Hmm.
But having that confidence, and that's hard when you're a
Yeah.
new chef. out in the business. I don't care how old you are. It's
Absolutely.
hard. But, now I just have funny comments like, my knife is bigger than yours. Or you should see how excited I get when I skin a chicken. One of the things I do is try to create a light and positive atmosphere. Whenever I have to face something difficult, I think it always eases the situation. And I think fighting for yourself and fighting for women in general, um, we're a lot more well spoken. We're a little bit more eloquent, so we can use that to our advantage when we need to address these disparities between the genders.
That's a really good point, and I think I really want to highlight that right there for, is like it's stepping back into your eloquence because even if we are programmed subconsciously to be the good girl and the nice girl, if you leverage it in that eloquent way and then have the confidence to stand up for yourself, it can go a lot further than otherwise. So that's a really great point. Well, Jennifer, this has been so much fun. And I think, as we talked, I'm like, okay, I have to have her back on. We got to talk about this. We got to talk about this. There's probably two or three more episodes, but since you love TV, um,
Yeah.
you could be back on. I want to talk about one of your favorite recipes or share something because, like, when I was going through your website, I saw that you have a white sauce pizza with mortadella, which I know is not a super healthy meat, but oh my gosh, it's so tasty. So what's one of your most accessible recipes that, like, if I went to the grocery store, I could buy the ingredients and cook it tonight and it wouldn't be too complicated? Can you share a favorite?
So I think it's my bolognese.
Huh?
It's what developed from my mom's spaghetti sauce. So every Sunday we eat spaghetti. It was like my thing. And when we go home, it's like, what do I eat? Mom's spaghetti. And my mom's spaghetti had green bell peppers in it. It is not Italian. Maybe it leans more New Orleans. I'm not sure, but we weren't from New Orleans either. Nostalgia. That's what I tried to recreate. And so over the years, I've just developed, kind of like what I would call a ragu, which is just a basic meat spaghetti sauce. That's the
Okay.
one I have in my fridge all the time. I'm pretty sure that's on my website. If not, I will get that uploaded. But the bolognese is just a version of that. It's the meat sauce that came from Bologna in Italy. It is one of the most recognized meat sauces that are out there. It's simple to make. It's not hard to put together. You can do dried pasta. You can build scratch pasta. And if you want to, on our next visit, we can talk about how easy it is to make scratch made pasta.
Oh my gosh. I've been wanting to do that my entire life, but I'm like scared it would take like forever or it wouldn't turn out right, which is my classic kitchen story.
It can be intimidating. On my TV show, I had the flour, and I made the well and I put the eggs in it, and I'm like, oh, and all of a sudden, one of the egg rolls out of the flour, almost off the counter on camera,
Oh
and I was
no.
like, oh, come back, and back, and I was like, okay, I really need to be blessed by the nonas right now. So make it even better. I didn't have a rolling pin to roll out the pasta, so I had to use a wine bottle.
Oh my gosh.
Watch my show; it's funny.
I'll have a look for that episode. I'll link to it for everybody. That's oh my gosh. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I will be reaching out to Jennifer to get a link to that bolognese recipe because that sounds amazing. And of course, the episode that she just described. And if you guys have a chance, make sure you just go and Google Jennifer Bajsel, and that's Bajsel, and check out her stuff because it's super fun. It'll make you hungry and want to start cooking Italian food. So, speaking of that, Jennifer, can you tell us where everybody can find you if they want to get in touch?
Yeah. So my website, which currently is kind of under construction, I'm tweaking some things, but I do have recipes and videos on my website. That's jenniferbasel.com. And then you can find my Facebook, Instagram, and even TikTok. I try to get it all. It's my name, Jennifer Bajsel. I think on Instagram, it's Jennifer_Bajsel. But the key is spelling my last name right, Bajsel. If you get that, I'm like one of 5 people who spell their name like that. So easy to find me.
I can vouch for that. I found you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining today and sharing all of these insights. This was like so exciting and I learned so much. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And if you all love today's episode, please click subscribe below and leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, leadership doesn't just happen in top chef kitchens or in the boardroom. It happens wherever you showcase your influence. So my team and I can help you elevate your influence and show up as the confident authority in any room with a strong personal brand. So visit happylifeagency.co. And then, of course, if you want to continue to learn more about how you can be part of this movement, go to happylifeagenda.com. I'll be posting Jennifer's bio and links to everything we talked about today. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye, y'all.